Happy Friday, everybody. Friday the 13th. Scary, scary, scary number. Welcome back to the Fanatics at College Football Betting Show. A little extra episode here on YouTube. If you're familiar with our show and if you're a subscriber here on YouTube, we know that we have a bunch of panelists that come on, and every single Wednesday, we drop an episode, give out our bets, our locks, our upsets, and our famous snake betting draft run by the great Mr. Kyle at Coda Capper Kyle on Twitter. But going to try and incorporate some more weekly videos besides, our main weekly betting show that comes out every single Wednesday. So again, my name is Cody Capper Pace. You can follow me on Twitter there. And, these are just going to kind of be some breakdowns, some recaps, some player prop videos. And I found three that I really, really like here for Saturday, September 14th, which is, of course, tomorrow. But yesterday we did have two college football games, and we had four teams in action. I watched a lot of the Arizona State and Texas State game. A lot of hype around that game, right? I saw a lot of people on Twitter were like, "Why is Texas State getting so much hype?" And then they hopped on Arizona State, and it didn't look like a great bet in the first half. And Arizona State kind of flips the script there in the second half a little bit. I mean, they did get the win, obviously, but I know they go back to week two. They did not look great in that second half, and they kind of just grinded it out against. Did not look great against Mississippi State in that second half, and they grinded it out here against Texas State there yesterday to stay undefeated, 3-0 as Arizona State moves to. Texas State falls to 2-1. I believe what Arizona State, their team total was 5.5 for this season. Dillingham, I love that coach. I love him. I love his. I just love the energy that he brings on the sideline and in his press conferences. There's a press conference earlier in the week. He was kind of talking about just kind of between the lines, betting wise and underdogs and stuff like that as they go to Texas State. And more coaches need to talk about that. I think that's good. That helps us try and predict some of these games and what's going to go down. So Jordan McLeod for Texas State, very good game. Very good game. He had that late interception there, which did not help Texas State's chances at all. Texas State, their final three offensive possessions, two turnovers, interception by McLeod, a fumble, and then a turnover on downs. And Arizona State was just kind of able to take control of that and score 3 points in that fourth quarter, held Texas State to 0 points in that fourth quarter. In a game that was 21 all at halftime, only featured 17 points in that second half. Arizona State wins the second half 10-7 to get the 3 point victory there as a road favorite. Heads to Texas State and gets that W. Major things kind of pointed out to me. Just some interesting play calling, especially on fourth down by Texas State there late in the third quarter, late in that fourth quarter as well. Texas State, I believe, was 2 for 4 on fourth down, which is good. 50%. I will sign up for that every single day. They came into this game through their first two games 3 for 5 on fourth down, so they clearly showed, that they're all right and willing to go for it on fourth down. But some of those fourth downs were not great. One of those fourth down turnovers on downs, I should say, on fourth down came in one of their final three possessions. McLeod through the interception and the fumble, and just some kind of interesting play calling on fourth down, throwing on fourth and short, things like that. And if you want to win ball games like that, right, you maybe try and play the field possession battle a little bit. In the first half, it was an offensive battle. Texas State went up 21-7. And then you had Sam Levitt kind of show out in a game where he was 19 of 32, 46, a touchdown in an interception, a QBR of 69.4. McLeod, 29 of 44, 268, four touchdowns and a pick, a QBR of 80. Arizona State, a team that has ran the ball really well. Well, one guy has ran the ball really well. Cam Scatteraboo had a phenomenal week two against Mississippi State, a career day, career game against Mississippi State. And I was like, I love fading guys off career weeks, off career days. And he had 24 carries on only 62 yards, 2.6 yards per carry. He picked up, most of those yards there in the second half, in that fourth quarter there. He had a long of 13. He did have two touchdowns. Anytime ASU got, near the goal line, they just handed it to him, and he just kind of bulldozed right through the goal line. This was a physical game. I knew that going in. So that kind of said, that physical edge should have went to ASU in my mind. ASU is the more physical team with the more physical back. and Cam Scatterbo, baby, he's a phenomenal player, and he's super fun to watch. He doesn't care who's coming at him, how many people are coming at him. He's lowering that head and he's going at it, and he's going to try and gain yards. So again, a nice fade of him. His rushing prop was 100.5. Easily hits that. If you follow me on Twitter at Coda Kepper Pace, I gave that out. I also gave out. I had let's see, rushing yard Jordan McLeod, 15.5 for the dual threat quarterback. Very dynamic dual threat quarterback player. That's all his rushing prop was. He goes 8 carries for 45 yards, an average of 5.6, and a long of 13. So that was wrapped up fairly quickly. I think in the first half, if I remember correctly there. So good win for ASU. ASU improves to 3-0. Texas State 2-1. The big difference, just kind of looking at this here, to me, honestly, there's a lot of penalties in this game. 16 penalties. Time of possession was basically right down the middle. The big takeaways here is the turnover battle, right? Texas State has 3 turnovers. ASU only has 1. And there's some boneheaded calls there on 4th and short in the 4th quarter. In winning time, Texas State just could not get it done. I understand you have Scatterbo and you have a talented running game on the other side of Arizona State. And as the time ticks down, as the clock ticks down, you don't want to give it back to a team like that who can just run the ball. But Texas State's defense was doing a fine job against the Arizona State rushing game. So why not give the ball back, play the field possession battle, and see what your defense can do, and then get the ball back in McLeod's hands. But I know, a lot of coaches, you want the ball in your best player's hands, and that's Jordan McLeod for Texas State. So I can't blame them for keeping him on the offense in some of those 4th down situations. So again, fun game there for Thursday. I love Thursday college football. I was locked into this game over the Bills and the Dolphins there for Thursday night NFL. I just don't love Thursday night football in NFL. I don't think the product's great. And the Bills did look kind of good, though, but the Dolphins also look trash. Anyways, we're here to talk college football, and let's move on to tomorrow as we have 3 player props for tomorrow. Now, player props in college football are interesting because, again, what book has them? What book's numbers are good? It's only maybe offshore, like Bovada has some of these. But again, if you can find them, great, because I do think there's some value here. I think there's a lot of winners here. I do like betting player props over spreads and totals and things like that. I just think for the way I look at games, I just think it's easier to find a matchup difference in player props and take those. So our first one, North Texas at Texas Tech University. This game's getting a lot of chatter because Texas Tech is not great defensively. They gave up a boatload of points in week 1 to Abilene Christian. 51 points they gave up. They won in overtime, triple overtime, was it? 52-51. And they have just not been great defensively. I watched one of the press conferences from their head coach, who is a defensive guy, and he said it all starts on the defensive side of the football for us. We cannot continue to try and win ball games, to give up 50, 60 some points in the Big 12 and expect to win the Big 12 title. Couldn't agree more, coach. But again, can they do it? That's the question. You can talk. I know you're a defensive guy, but can you do it? And they have a tough matchup this week too. You got to slow down North Texas's quarterback Chandler Morris, whose passing prop is at 296.5 yards. Again, he's been phenomenal. This Mr. Chandler Morris, 8.4 yards per pass this season, 335 yards per game. He has a 15-5 touchdown to interception ratio. Again, he's coming off a game against SF Austin where he did have 3 picks, 4 touchdowns, but he did have 3 picks. So, nearly all of his interceptions, more than half of them came in just one game there last week. I'm a big fan of the website CFBdata.com. And CFBdata.com measures a lot of advanced stats in college football. They also measure a stat called success rate on standard and passing down. So Texas Tech's defense not very good. So I was like, let's check out the success rate that this defense has on passing downs. Not great. It's 43%, meaning that their opponent offensively is being successful on passing downs 43% of the time. Now, CFB data.com measures success rate, and how they measure it is one of the following criteria. Either the offense scored first downs, which gain at least 50% of the yards to go, second downs, which gain at least 70% of the yards to go, or on 3rd and 4th downs, where at least 100% of the yards were achieved to go. So again, Success rate on passing downs is not the strength. Defending the pass on these downs in passing downs is not the strength of this Texas Tech defense, and rightfully so. Now, if you look at North Texas, they do have some injuries on the offensive side of the ball. I don't think they're major injuries, but it is important. You have to look at injuries no matter how drastic or little the or how much or little I should say a player has played. And that includes two running backs here for for North Texas. Haven't been bell cows, haven't been workhorses for North Texas. Man, Texas State. Now we're talking North Texas. I have to keep that straight. But they have been two running backs who have seen action in both their first two games, who have seen targets, who have seen rushing attempts, and they also have a wide receiver named Wyatt Young who has 9 carries through these first, or excuse me, 9 targets through these first two games. He is questionable. Again, I'm not saying Chandler Morris can't um, send the ball elsewhere besides Young, but you have to play that into your handicap, especially when looking at a passing prop here. So Chandler Morris, just keep that in mind. There is a few injuries on that North Texas side. You want to keep an eye on that as it get closer to kickoff there on Saturday. I would recommend you do that. Chandler Morris over 296.5 passing yards. I just think the matchup is perfect for him against a Texas Tech man. Texas State, Texas Tech, North Texas. Woo, we're all about the Texas schools here today. So 296.5. He surpassed this number 300 plus in his first two games so far this season. He's averaging 8.4. Did I say a pass per yards per attempt? I like that. 15 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. I do think this is going to be a fast throw it down, catch the ball, score some points type of game. 296.5. I think he can get 300 plus in this one. Our second player prop for Saturday, we're going to Troy at Iowa. Caleb Johnson over 81.5 rushing yards. Troy gives up a solid amount of rushes at that second level, according to CFP data. And I think Iowa and Caleb Johnson can take advantage of that. Johnson ranks fourth in rushing yards so far this season, while the Troy defense, not good. Troy rush defense, not good. Very similar to the Texas Tech passing defense. Troy ranks 132nd in yards per rush at 6.8 and 120th in yards allowed. Whoop, at 212.5 per game. This number seems a little bit fishy. 81.5. I kind of thought I'd be, in probably triple digit numbers, around 100 there. But again, it doesn't really matter how many carries Johnson gets for Iowa. In week one, he only had 11 carries. He still managed to get 119 yards against Illinois State. Last week in a rivalry game, again, physical rivalry game, could be a little banged up. But again, this number is so low than what I thought it was going to be. I'm very comfortable taking that. He had 25 carries, 14 more than he did in week one, still had 187 yards. So Caleb Johnson over 81.5 rushing yards. Again, for all my player props, I'm just looking for matchups. And I think Johnson is a great matchup against a bad Troy rush defense. Our third and final play here for today, player props. Our third one here for today, Maryland at Virginia. Again, it should be another high-scoring game. You have two receiving corps who are very, very talented. And I'm going to take Malachi Fields for Virginia over 70.5 receiving yards on this one. Again, I'm not a huge fan of kind of looking at the past, the head-to-head past matchups, especially now in college football where it seems, players are changing every single week. With the transfer portal, we all get that realignment in conferences, players changing, teams, yada, yada, yada. It feels like an NBA offseason. But these two teams, when they play, there is a ton of offense. Yeah, at least in the last two games, there is a ton of offense. Through two games, both of these defense are giving up 250 plus pass yards so far this season. Malachi Fields, the best Virginia wideout in my mind, over 70.5 seems like an attainable number that he can get. Now, if you look back at his last 14 games dating back to last season, he's had 60 plus receiving yards in all of those games except for one. So 13 out of 14 games dating back to last season, he's hit 60 or more receiving yards. I know that this number now is 10 yards higher than 60, but again, if you get 60, you're only 10 yards away. You only need probably one or two more passes, and you feel good about that. I feel good about 70.5. So I'm going to take that there for Malachi Fields for Virginia. And again, look at these look at these defenses. I should say, if you look at the Virginia, or excuse me, Maryland pass defense, they rank 126 nationally at 292.6 pass yards allowed so far this season. While Fields is 11th ranked receiver in FBS with 248 receiving yards on 16 catches, which is very, very solid. So there we go. Run through them real quick again. Chandler Morris of North Texas, the quarterback, over 296.5. Fading that Texas Tech University defense. I'm taking Caleb Johnson over 81.5 rushing yards, fading that Troy rush defense. And I'm going to take Malachi Fields from Virginia, the wideout, over 70.5 receiving yards, fading that Maryland pass defense as well. All right, that's all I have here for today. Best of luck if you tail. You can follow me on Twitter for the rest of my picks at Cody Capper Pace. And no, I'll probably be back on Monday. We'll talk some recap stuff. And then on Wednesday, again, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you're new here, we only have 10 subscribers, but hey, you got to start somewhere, and we're trying to pump out some content here. So our panelists will be back there next Wednesday to recap week 3 and to preview week 4. And I'll be sprinkled in, throughout the week with some recap stuff, some games that I watched from start to finish, some stuff that I noticed from week 3, and then, moving on to week 4. A lot of like inconsistency I feel so far in college football. We know 3 teams are good: Ohio State, Georgia, and then who's the other team that I think is really good? Yeah, Texas, baby. Texas is back. So we know 3 teams are really good for sure. Other than that, I have zero idea, kind of what's going on so far. Just a lot of inconsistency so far. So excited for another college football week 3, to hopefully find some stuff out, write some notes down, take some notes down if you love to bet stuff, and just go back to those notes as you look to the next week. Best of luck if you tail. Subscribe, please. Let's see if we can get to 100 subscribers by the end of college football season of this college football season. Only 90 more to go. That doesn't seem too bad, but it also seems like so far away. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. Peace.